Good day, my name is Scott Kinney with Discovery Education, and it is my pleasure to be here today with Dr. Mark Edwards for our One Idea series. Dr. Edwards really needs no introduction, is well known across the country for his leadership in multiple places, but most recently Mooresville Graded School District, where he has also been the 2013 Superintendent of the Year, has recently published the book Every Child, Every Day, and is truly a leader throughout the country in an incredible number of ways. So thank you for joining me, Dr. Edwards.
Hello, Scott. It's great to be with you today.
So, Dr. Edwards, one of the things we talked about, incredible success at Mooresville. I think most people know the stories of your academic success and how you've done that in a really economically sustainable way. But when you talk about the things that are most critical in the transition that you've undertaken in Mooresville, something specific comes to mind. What was it that you think is kind of stands above everything else?
You know, it's interesting, Scott. We have hundreds of visitors coming into Mooresville, and 99% come to look at technology or to look at digital resources. 99% leave talking about our culture, and in particular, our spread of leadership. And I think that one of the elements that superintendents all over the country, leaders all over the country, can certainly benefit from is the concept of abundant leadership and distributed leadership, pushing it out all over the district. So I think that nuance of an organizational development and change management, building a platform of abundant leadership and a spread of leadership so leaders are just literally all over the place, I think has been a real key for us.
Now, I was surprised when we talked, you had mentioned, because you mentioned that and all of a sudden I envisioned, you're right. Of course, you have to have great senior leadership and great teacher leadership, but you actually mentioned students as well. How do they play into that whole area of leadership?
Well, you know, it's interesting. We're learning so much from our students. You know, they truly have not just embraced digital resources, it's in their DNA, they live it. And just recently, I was in a fourth grade classroom, and a teacher shared with me. She said, "I'm struggling with this concept with these kids. It's part of the new Common Core type math. It's hard." And she said, "So I'm struggling." And so she said, "I've asked one of our students. We were talking about it. He said, 'Well, let me teach it. I know this stuff backwards and forwards.'" So while we were standing there, she said, "So he's over there working with that group of 3 boys." And she said, I've tried. I don't know what to do." And so he raised his hand. He said, "Hey, we got it." And she said, No. She said, "Keep working. I want you." And he said, "No, they got it down flat." So we go over there, and they go through a couple operations. And she said, How did this happen?" And the 3 boys that the student was teaching said, he just tells it a little bit different than you do, but he understands it. And at that moment, I said, wow, that student is providing leadership at a really high level. And I really think in every classroom in our country, we have student leaders, but they need to be authorized. So often we'll say, "Well, isn't that quaint or isn't that cute?" This is powerful. There's a big difference between quaint and cute. It's powerful when we harness the energy of leaders all around us, including students.
So I think that'd be tough to argue with, but I think the harder question then becomes, how do you establish that? How do you start to build that culture where those leaders can emerge?
Well, you know, I think it has a lot to do with the disposition of superintendents and of other district leaders, that leadership is not something that you should keep close to you, but you should push it out. And authorize, I think that I like the word authorize leadership. You know, in Mooresville, we have custodians, bus drivers, child nutrition workers, who all demonstrate leadership every day, step up in a major way, just as students and teachers. Chris Kinney from Harvard was visiting here last year, and he made the comment, he said, almost every teacher I talk to is a leader. And I talk to them, they talk like leaders. They act like leaders. So I think it's building this sense of expectation that leadership is abundant, and then positioning resources to support it through professional development, through continuing education. Next year, all of the principals in Mooresville will have achieved a doctoral degree. And part of that is setting up a context that we want people to be lifelong learners, to grow, and to be abundant in their sharing. So I think when we create those conditions people rise to the occasion, and that's a lot of what we've seen in Mooresville.
That's great. So I always try and address kind of the funding issue, and you alluded to furthering professional development and doctoral work. How do you allocate for that? I mean, do you have to take from one place to put into those areas?
Well, it's been tough for us. You know, we're at one of the lowest funded districts in North Carolina, and then we've had severe budget cuts over the last several years. But even when we had to cut 10% of our staff, we did not touch, and this is all internal. We don't receive our state funding for PD. It was cut long ago. But we preserved the budget we had for PD, which included we provide a year stipend that's available to every employee in the district. Doesn't matter what position you're in, to continue your education. But we stuck to that for the doctoral students, the master students, other students, and said, this is the lifeblood of learning. This is the lifeblood of our organization. So we're going to hold tight to that. And then we've been creative. We put on a conference every year, Summer Connection, that we're very proud of. It sells out every year. It sold out this year. And we use the proceeds from that. Every penny of it goes directly for our teacher training and leadership training. So I think it's, you know, we're all in tight budget times, but you have to prioritize, and building leadership has been an absolute priority for us.
So if you could summarize that in less than 2 sentences and your kind of one nugget to take away from this, how would you summarize?
Sharing leadership builds new leaderships and creates opportunities for leaders all over the place.
That's great. This is One Idea with Dr. Mark Edwards. Dr. Edwards, thanks so much for your time today.
Great. Thanks. It's been great to be with you, Scott.
Take care.